how did this Hindu temple become Buddhist?
The answer is one of history's most remarkable stories, the peaceful conquest.
No armies, no violence, no forced conversion, just ideas.
This is the story of how Buddhism spread from a single tree in India.
Our story begins in 500 BCE in northeastern India. A prince sat beneath a Bodhi tree.
He determined not to rise until he understood the nature of suffering. After days of meditation, enlightenment came. He saw it clearly. Suffering is caused by desire. It can be ended through understanding and practice.
He becomes the Buddha, the awakened one. His teaching was revolutionary for its time. No caste system, no priestly intermediaries, just a practical path anyone could follow.
His disciples spread his teaching across northern India. 5 centuries later, it reached Southeast Asia.
But first, it needs a vehicle. The power of the empire.
In 261 BCE, Ashoka conquered Kalinga. The cost was staggering, 100,000 dead.
Ashoka is haunted by what he has done.
He decides he will rule by dharma, not by the sword. History's first Buddhist emperor.
He sent Buddhist missions everywhere, to Sri Lanka and beyond.
All men are my children. I desire welfare and happiness for all men.
The Dharma now has institutional support. Buddhism is ready to travel across the Bay of Bengal highway.
Monsoon winds make the journey predictable. The Bay of Bengal is a highway.
The answer starts with geography and economics. India needed spices. Southeast Asia needed culture.
The monsoon winds made the journey predictable. Where merchants go, monks follow.
Buddhist monks traveled as passengers. They weren't conquistadors, they were teachers.
These developing kingdoms needed writing systems, administrative models, and legitimizing ideologies. India offered all of this, and Buddhism was part of the cultural package.
The stage is set. The Dharma is about to meet new cultures, new languages, new ways of being.
Picture the scene. An Indian vessel approaching the coast, carrying far more valuable cargo than metalwork.
Traveling with them, Buddhist monks, carrying ideas that would transform kingdoms.
These monks weren't sent by any organized church. Buddhism had no central authority.
Họ là những người đàn ông có học thức. Họ biết toán học, y học.
They traveled by choice, seeking new communities to teach and new languages to translate.
When they arrived, they were welcomed. Why? Because they were useful men.
They could read and write Sanskrit, the prestige language of Indian civilization.
They understood mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. Practical skills were shared freely.
They taught meditation, a practical technique anyone could learn to calm their mind.
They shared stories from the Jataka tales, filled with moral lessons and entertainment.
Crucially, they didn't demand conversion. They didn't threaten non-believers.
Try this path to reduce suffering and see if it works for you.
This approach was devastatingly effective. The first kingdom to embrace Buddhism was Funan.
This Funan emerged around the 1st century CE, controlling the crucial maritime route between India and China.
Funan's kings adopted the entire prestigious Indian cultural package: Sanskrit writing, Brahmanical statecraft.
Fascinatingly, Buddhism and Hinduism arrived together, seen as complementary systems.
The same king might sponsor both Buddhist monasteries and Hindu temples, side by side.
Monks and Brahmins advised the court side by side. This wasn't confusion, it was sophisticated fusion.
An inscription mentions both the teaching of the Buddha and the sacrifice to Shiva. No contradiction.
This pattern of syncretism, blending rather than replacing, will define Southeast Asian Buddhism.
Let's imagine being that monk. You've traveled months across dangerous waters to a foreign land.
How do you spread the Dharma?
You adapt. First, you must learn the local language.
Some monks spent years just learning to speak with locals before teaching anything spiritual.
When locals honor ancestral spirits, you don't dismiss them. You say, honor them, and practice the Dharma.
Second, you offer practical value: meditation, herbal medicine, fair dispute settlement.
Third, you live the teaching. People see the peace it creates and want it too.
Fifth, you tell stories. The Jataka tales provided moral lessons embedded in entertainment.
This is how Buddhism spread, not through conquest, but through demonstration, one conversation at a time.
In the 3rd century BCE, Ashoka's son Mahinda brought Buddhism to the island, where it took deep root. Sri Lankan monks preserved what they called the original teaching, Theravada, the teaching of the elders.
They emphasized strict monastic discipline and personal enlightenment over ritual complexity.
By the 5th century CE, Sri Lanka became the guardian of the Theravada tradition for all of Asia.
This preservation was crucial. Sri Lankan missionaries would later transform Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos.
But before Theravada dominated, Mahayana Buddhism had its golden age, centered on the Srivijaya Empire.
In the 7th century CE, Srivijaya emerged in Sumatra, controlling the Strait of Malacca.
Srivijayan rulers decided to invest immense wealth in Buddhist learning centers. They invited the greatest Indian scholars, sponsoring translation projects and fostering scholarship. Building monasteries generated immense karma, ensuring better future rebirths for the ruling family.
A great Buddhist center also attracted trade, diplomatic connections, and international prestige.
Srivijaya became the Nalanda of Southeast Asian Buddhism, the learning center of the world.
We know of Srivijaya's greatness because of the Chinese monk Yi Jing, or Yi Tsing. In 671 CE, Yi Jing arrived seeking scriptures. He was amazed by what he found.
In Srivijaya, Buddhist priests number more than 1,000, bent on learning and good practices.
He advised Chinese priests to study here before even going to central India. On his return, he stayed 4 years, translating Sanskrit texts into Chinese with Srivijayan help.
The Dharma was evolving, adapting, growing richer through Southeast Asian cultural exchange. Around 800 CE, while Srivijaya thrived, the Sailendra dynasty in Java built Borobudur. This wasn't just a temple, it was a three-dimensional teaching text, a Buddhist cosmos.
The journey begins at the base, showing humans trapped in the realm of desire and suffering. Climbing higher, you enter the realm of forms, showing the path of the Bodhisattva's teachings. Continue upward through 4 more terraces, each level representing progress toward awakening. Finally, the circular terraces, the realm of formlessness, pure meditation, pure awareness. Each stupa contains a Buddha statue, symbolizing the attainment of enlightenment.
Remarkably, Borobudur was built while Angkor Wat's Hindu predecessors were rising in Cambodia.
The Dharma had become indigenous. Southeast Asia was creating its own Buddhist civilization.
During this golden age, Mahayana Buddhism, the great vehicle, dominated the region.
Mahayana emphasized the Bodhisattva ideal, delaying one's own enlightenment to help all sentient beings. This ideal appealed strongly to kings, mirroring their duty to sacrifice for their people's welfare. Mahayana was flexible. It could incorporate local deities as Dharma protectors within its vast cosmology.
Furthermore, Mahayana connected culturally and commercially with the dominant Chinese Buddhist tradition.
But this dominance wouldn't last. Starting in the 11th century, a reform movement would sweep the mainland.
In 1057 CE, King Anawarahta unified Burma and decided to transform religion there.
Anarata invaded Thaton, but his goal wasn't just conquest. It was the Tripitaka scriptures in Pali.
He transplanted Theravada Buddhism, bringing back texts, monks, scholars, and craftsmen. Over 250 years, Pagan's kings constructed more than 10,000 Buddhist monuments across the plains. Building temples generated merit, karma, ensuring better rebirths for every donor, noble, or merchant. Theravada Buddhism spread from Burma into Thailand, Laos, and eventually Cambodia.
Why did Theravada win? First, simplicity. Focus on the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path.
Second, accessibility. Pali is linguistically closer to local languages than Sanskrit was.
Third, democratic participation. Every young man could ordain temporarily, connecting every family to the Sangha. It democratized spirituality. Everyone could participate directly in the core practice. Fourth, it arrived as a reform movement, claiming to be purer, appealing to legitimacy seekers. By 1200, Theravada dominated the mainland. But the most dramatic transformation happened at Hindu Angkor.
In 1181, after devastating war, Jayavarman VII took the throne, and he was transformatively Buddhist.
He rebuilt the empire, constructing a new capital, Angkor Thom, centered on Buddhist temples.
The Bayan Temple features 216 massive stone faces, watching in all directions, embodying compassion.
He built hospitals and rest houses throughout the empire, dedicated to Buddhist merit-making.
He suffered from his subjects' illnesses more than from his own. This was radical service. Crucially, Jayavarman didn't destroy Angkor Wat. He simply added to the religious landscape.
Over following centuries, Angkor Wat itself gradually became Buddhist, absorbing the new tradition.
Monasteries became the backbone of civilization. They provided education for nearly everyone.
They practiced herbal medicine and cared for the sick. They provided essential social services.
Habits settled disputes. Their wisdom and impartiality made them trusted legal arbiters. Most importantly, Buddhism offered comprehensive answers to life's hardest existential questions.
Since every family member had direct connection to the Sangha, Buddhism wasn't foreign. It was woven into identity.
It became indispensable because it provided services kingdoms and people desperately needed.
But what makes Southeast Asian Buddhism unique? It never completely replaced what came before.
People pray to local spirits for worldly success, then practice Buddhism for ultimate liberation.
In Myanmar, temples coexist with shrines to Nats, indigenous spirits predating Buddhism.
In Cambodia, monks perform blessings using practices older than Buddhism to guard against malevolent spirits.
In Vietnam, Buddhist temples incorporate Confucian ethics and Taoist cosmology seamlessly.
This isn't corruption of pure Buddhism. It's Buddhism properly understood and adapted.
Spirit worship addresses worldly needs. Buddhism addresses ultimate liberation from samsara.
Hindu gods become dharma protectors. Local spirits are integrated into the cosmology.
This adaptability was Buddhism's secret weapon. It succeeded because it didn't demand cultural erasure.
Today, 1,000 years later, the conquest of Southeast Asia is statistically complete.
Thailand, 95% Buddhist. Cambodia, 97% Buddhist. Over 150 million Theravada Buddhists in these countries alone. More than 500,000 Buddhist monks maintain this deep cultural presence across the region.
In Thailand, every young man still ordains, ensuring Buddhism is woven into national identity.
In Myanmar, monasteries educate 1/3 of all children and have led democracy movements.
Buddhism survived the Khmer Rouge genocide, which tried to destroy it. Temples were rebuilt.
It is inseparable from what it means to be Thai, Burmese, Cambodian, or Lao.
How did this happen? Let us review the 7 strategies that allowed Buddhism to conquer Southeast Asia. Strategy 1. Peaceful arrival. Monks, not soldiers. No forced conversion.
Strategy 2. Practical value. Meditation to calm the mind. Ethical guidelines for daily living.
Strategy 3. Cultural adaptation. Buddhism didn't demand cultural erasure. It adapted to local languages.
Strategy 4. Institutional infrastructure. Monasteries provided essential services kingdoms relied upon. Strategy 5. Royal patronage. Kings demonstrated virtue by sponsoring the Dharma.
Strategy 6. Democratic participation. Anyone could ordain, connecting all families directly to the Sangha. Strategy 7. Time. This transformation took 1,000 years. Patience defeats impatience. The core practices remain unchanged. Monks still chant texts in Pali, the language of 2,000 years ago. The same meditation techniques, the same monastic discipline, are maintained across the region.
But Buddhism has also evolved, addressing contemporary issues like environmental protection.
Buddhism supports democracy in modern states.
Now, the Dharma is spreading again, this time to the West, often secularized as mindfulness. Millions practice Buddhist-derived techniques in corporations, schools, and therapy offices.
Buddhist philosophy influences Western psychology and neuroscience, integrating concepts like non-self.
Monks from Thailand and Myanmar now teach globally. The pattern of peaceful spread repeats.
Just as monks sailed to Southeast Asia, they now fly to the West, adapting to new contexts.
Ancient kings built temples for merit. Modern philanthropists fund mindfulness programs.
Buddhism still offers practical value, stress reduction, psychological tools for suffering.
The pattern remains the same: peaceful, patient, adaptive, focused on reducing suffering in any context.
We return to where we began. Angkor Wat, Hindu-built, now undeniably Buddhist.
The temple hasn't been destroyed, it's transformed. Hindu gods carved on walls, Buddhist monks chanting within courtyards. This is the Dharma's genius. It conquers by incorporating, adapting, and offering value.
Over 1,000 years, Buddhism transformed Southeast Asia more completely than any military conquest could.
It was a conquest of compassion, not force.
It made everyone who encountered it realize they had found something worth preserving.
The Dharma came from India, but it became Southeast Asian, transforming both the region and itself.
That transformation continues today in temples across Thailand, monasteries in Myanmar,
and increasingly in meditation centers from Melbourne to Manhattan. The next chapter begins.
The method remains unchanged. Offer value, adapt to culture, give it time, and let people choose. This is the path of the Dharma. This is how Buddhism conquered Southeast Asia.
The conquest was complete, yet the teaching remains open to all.
1,000 years of patient, peaceful transformation.
The Dharma moves on, adapting to the next generation.
A victory achieved not by force, but by fundamental human value. These silent witnesses guard the secret of non-violent conquest. The words of the elders, preserved across oceans and centuries. The purity sought in Burma reshaped the entire cultural sphere.
People chose this path because it worked for their lives, both mundane and ultimate.
The first act of welcome centuries ago is mirrored in devotion today.
The scholars of Srivijaya paved the intellectual road for the changes to come.
He left Srivijaya, carrying its accumulated wisdom back to the east.
Borobudur remains a silent testament to the Mahayana vision of the cosmos.
The journey from samsara to nirvana, sculpted in stone.
The wind that brought the silk brought the Dharma. The wind that brought the gold brought the philosophy.
Culture flowed alongside commerce. The merchant was often the first teacher.
Merit was the currency of the spiritual realm, understood instantly by rulers and commoners alike. Ashoka's repentance gave the idea imperial weight and sent it eastward.
The lineage of the elders, preserved on Sri Lanka, waited for the moment to expand again.
Jayavarman VII showed compassion wasn't just personal virtue, it was the basis of statecraft.
The Dharma shaped the way people lived, worked, and related to their neighbors.
The conquest was about tending the flame of awareness in every corner.
The monastery was the first line of defense against societal decay and ignorance.
The farmers and laborers saw the monks as essential anchors for their community. Literacy and moral conduct were inseparable gifts offered by the Sangha.
Even as Theravada reformed the region, it absorbed the legacy of earlier, more flexible Mahayana practices.
They understood that one tradition could offer protection while the other offered liberation.
The ideas originated in India, but they were shaped entirely by the journey eastward. The core teaching, the Four Noble Truths, remained the immutable constant.
The middle way was the key, a path that resonated universally.
Compassion, service, and wisdom, these are the tools that broke through cultural barriers.
Royal patronage cemented Buddhism by tying kingly legitimacy to selfless service.
The willingness to sacrifice for the greater good became the ultimate political statement.
The plains of Pagan reveal the sheer scale of accumulated merit over generations.
When the state was weak, the monastery stepped in as the ultimate source of impartial justice.
Buddhism cut across inherited status by demanding humility from monks and offering access to all. The means of transmission change, from smoke signals to scriptures to apps, but the message remains.
Today, the process of learning the core texts is being replicated in Western classrooms.
Stress reduction, delivered via application, proves the enduring practical value.
The core concepts of compassion and non-harm resonate as strongly now as they did 2,000 years ago.
This history proves that cultural evolution is layered, not annihilatory.
The tradition travels, finding new fertile ground by embracing local expression.
The structure of Angkor Wat itself teaches this lesson of layered survival.
The riverways that carried gold also carried the seeds of enlightenment. Providing tangible, immediate value earned the right to discuss ultimate truth.
Lesson 5. Time. Real cultural transformation outlasts dramatic upheaval because it is organic.
Archaeology confirms the layering. Hinduism beneath Mahayana, beneath Theravada.
Generations of monks dedicated their lives to copying and reciting these foundational texts.
The entire civilization hinged on those predictable, reliable sea voyages.
The recipient culture was strong enough to shape what it received.
The middle way provided a clear direction in complex societal shifts.
The egalitarian message of the Buddha found fertile ground in stratified ancient societies.
While Buddhism spread over land, it was the sea that truly knitted Southeast Asia into the Indian world.
Detachment from material wealth was the clearest advertisement for the spiritual rewards.
The Sangha was the moral compass fixed above the turning wheel of commerce.
Compassion, when applied to governance, becomes revolutionary policy.
Each conversion was won through patient explanation, not sudden decree.
Well, you know.
The sheer volume of building at Pagan shows devotion translated into physical reality. Even the stories used moral instruction embedded in the natural world.
Pali offered a direct line back to the presumed original words of the Buddha.
They healed bodies while healing minds, a dual prescription for success.
The legacy of that quiet conquest informs the very soul of modern Southeast Asia.
The path to reduce suffering remains structurally the same, regardless of the device used to learn it.
Even within the Sangha, constant reminders and renewed practice are necessary. The path is ultimately individual, requiring solitary effort. Royal status dissolves upon entering the monastic life. The only currency is effort.
The fusion wasn't passive reception. It was active, creative synthesis.
The pattern that conquered this region now carries itself globally, finding new expression.
People are still finding personal liberation through these ancient, tested techniques.
The legacy of education and welfare ensures the foundation remains strong.
Even in times of violence, the religious framework offered the blueprint for compassionate recovery.
The fundamental instruction remains: recognize desire, let go of attachment.
Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivademi.
We must remember the power of the beliefs that preceded the Dharma's final dominance.
Anurata's military action was driven by the deeply spiritual quest for textual purity. The complexity of Mahayana set a high cultural bar that Theravada had to meet with its own form of discipline.
The predictability of nature facilitated the unpredictability of cultural revolution.
The Buddha invited people to come and see. The teaching offered itself for empirical verification.
Utility first. Only once usefulness is established can philosophy take root.
The promise of reduced suffering is intensely personal and deeply motivating.
The contrast between the horrors of Ashoka's beginning and the peace he sponsored is absolute.
Force may achieve compliance, but voluntary adoption creates true, lasting societal transformation.
Institutional support gave the Dharma the reach necessary for global movement.
1,000 years of quiet influence stand taller than any fortress.
Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Buddham Saranam Gacchami.
Cultural preservation is the hidden warfare against oblivion.
The strait remains a vital artery, proving geography determines cultural destiny.
His reign demonstrates that spiritual legitimacy can fuel the greatest earthly achievements.
The great vehicle taught that no one achieves liberation alone.
The monastery remains the center of civic life, even today.
Humility and practicality are the engines that drive the centuries-long transformation.
Lesson 6. Meet people where they are. Never demand cultural erasure.
The application is flexible. The core principle of reducing suffering is not.
It all began with the resolution under one tree in India. Angkor Wat is the physical archive of this 1,000-year dialogue.
The deepest conquest is over the self.
The smoke of countless offerings still perfumes the ancient stones.
Infrastructure helps, but the teaching survives in the solitary heart.
Gantadurahi Selam Navayati.
The conquest is successful when the student surpasses the teacher in dedication.
The journey continues, now powered by jet fuel instead of monsoon winds. This was the conquest that redefined the word, achieved through value, not violence.
The techniques that calmed ancient kings now calm the modern anxious mind.
The emotional dividend of non-attachment is universally appealing.
The geography that first welcomed the Dharma remains key to its spread.
Real transformation requires the patience of centuries, not the impatience of years. Adherence to discipline is maintained, regardless of comfort or climate. The insight gained under the Bodhi tree echoes across the ages.
The 1,000-year conquest is complete. A unique Southeast Asian legacy remains.
For them, it is simply sacred ground, woven into the national story.
Good governance rooted in compassion creates lasting monuments, not just to gods, but to people.
The physical representation of the spiritual journey remains a powerful teacher.
This passage describes the journey across the Silk Road. Notice the Eastern traders mentioned here.
The power lies in the small, consistent acts of ethical living.
The deep practice continues in the quiet corners of the region.
Lesson 3. Adaptability ensures survival, where dogmatism guarantees obsolescence.
The tradition continues its third wave, challenging Western materialism with ancient wisdom.
The earth itself holds the memory of the conversion.
The grand temples were the packaging. The quiet practice is the timeless gift.
Buddhism became indispensable because it taught self-reliance in the face of suffering.
The conquerors were conquered by the effectiveness of the ideas they received.
The conquest was complete because it offered universal compassion.
This history is a study in how ideas achieve permanent empire.
The different vehicles eventually reached the same destination of wisdom.
The method is eternal: patient teaching, adaptation, and growth.
The transformation wasn't a single event, but a continuous, unfolding process. His choice set the course for a millennium of peaceful influence.
The posture hasn't changed. The intention remains the reduction of suffering.
The final lesson: the most enduring empires are those built on the voluntary dedication of the heart.
This is how ideas conquer kingdoms, through demonstration over time.
The conquest is not a singular battle won, but a continuous, quiet commitment. The mind finds clarity, mirroring the clarity of the initial teaching.
Local hands shaped the global vision.
The current generation carries forward the legacy of peaceful integration.
The Dharma offered not just salvation, but structure.
Adaptation means the monks continue to learn from the cultures they inhabit.
The physical evidence fades, but the ethic persists.
The 1,000-year conquest was never a war against people, but a campaign against suffering.
The conquest is complete. The choice remains yours.
This is how ideas conquer the world. Peacefully, patiently, one mind at a time.